Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated. Welcome back to Nerds Amalgamated. This week we're talking about some statistics about Australian gamers, DDR memory, but not the one you're thinking of, and a full AI Hollywood movie. That one's going to upset a lot of people.
Yeah, it's gonna upset a lot of people. Yep.
As always, we're sponsored by the delicious energy drink Rez, which you can get at drinkrez.com, drinkrez.com, with the code NERDS for 10% off. So we now have some new data on the number of gamers there are in Australia.
Yeah.
And if we needed any more proof that gaming isn't just for kids, 81% of us are over the age of 18, with the average age coming in at 35. This study was conducted by the International Games and Entertainment Association and Bond University, and most households have 2 or more devices for playing video games, which is more than I was expecting. Unless they're counting smartphones, which they do say 71% of Australian gamers play on smartphone. So I might actually have to... No, they don't have a link to the study here. That's an... So that makes me wonder, are they counting smartphones as a gaming device? Because then why isn't it 100% of households have a gaming device? Because who doesn't have a smartphone these days? These days you can't get by with a dumb phone, basically.
Yeah.
I know people who try, and they usually have tons of problems because of things like multi-factor authentication.
Not to mention updates on the game that you're playing as well, and how many patches there would be.
That has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Oh, my bad.
Do you even listen to me, or do you just say stuff?
I tend to listen to you, and then I say stuff afterwards.
What do patches have to do with me saying that most people were playing on smartphones?
You were saying about the dumb phones and the whole 2-factor authentication, so...
Yeah. Well, you can't play games on dumb phones, except for Snake.
Yeah, there are other... yeah, Snake is the primary one, then there are others.
I can't imagine someone who only owns a dumb phone is counting themselves as a gamer.
That would be wild.
Yeah, I'm a gamer, I've got the top score in Snake. Which is actually when you reach the point that there's no more space for the snake to go. Then you win the game.
Yeah.
Study also found that 2/3 of retirement age adults are playing games, which means that gamers are getting old.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, there are a couple of elderly citizens have been started streaming on Twitch lately with Battlefield, with games like Battlefield and Call of Duty.
Wow, that must be rough. I'm not even that old, and I can feel my reaction slowing down. I can't keep up with these kids who are playing for 10 hours a day anymore. I've got a life.
Interestingly, there is an esports team comprised of elderly citizens as well.
Yeah, I've heard about them, the Silver Snipers.
I mean, even I'm at their website now, and my gosh, look at them, all interesting people.
I'm sure they've got lots of great stories.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some of them probably fought in the war. Which war? The war. There's always a war going on.
And I'm looking at some of their stats for the on the Silver Snipers. Their kill death ratio, it ranges from one to 1 at the highest to the lowest. It's 0.74, and the oldest in that team is 82 years old.
So is this a sign that if I want to be good at multiplayer games again, I've got to wait until I retire? And I've got 10 hours a day to train? No, I've never been hugely into multiplayer, like ranked multiplayer.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not that interested in playing one game over and over again for 10 hours a day to get good. I like a bit of variety.
By the way, when I was saying about the elderly citizens doing Twitch streaming. There are some of their names are crazy. Like you got Grandpa Gaming, Old Man Gaming TV Live, Old Man Shorty, Old Man Mordaith, RS Glory and Gold.
Yeah, I just want to see some little old man sniper an enemy in PUBG or something and then say, "Smash that like button, Sonny!"
Oh Jesus! Like and subscribe and go to my Patreon.
But talking about the elderly multiplayer gamers, what's interesting is that, according to the study, older people tend to play solo games. So 77% of Australians play socially, but social play is inversely related to age, which I think has a couple of reasons for that. I think when you're young, it's easier to have friends who all have time to get together and play. Like going through uni, I would play so many games with my friends. Then we all got jobs, and some of them have kids.
Responsibility hits.
Yeah.
It's just like like puberty.
Yeah, so I think it's harder to get a gaming group together on a regular basis as you get older. I still manage it with my weekly, well, fortnightly mill simming though.
Yeah, but the magic, but the funniness of it does kind of goes away as you get older. Like you can't like when you the older you get, it's kind of like the jokes kind of like don't become fresh anymore, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, no, hilarious things still happen in my social gaming. Like, I'm playing different games socially than I was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
but the games that I am playing socially, I still have a ton of fun. Hilarious things still happen. There's like I think told a story a few weeks ago about playing Armor and driving across a bridge straight into a tank.
Yeah. I
That,
remember that.
once everyone's recovered from being blown up, is hilarious. Because you're just driving across a bridge in the middle of the night, sneaking up on an airfield that you're going to attack, and boom, tank, everybody's screaming. There's an explosion. And a couple of minutes later, once everybody's respawned, it's hilarious. No, I entirely unrelated, but my group has shrunk over the years, and we still have a core group who get together, but not anywhere near as many. Like 8 years ago, when I first started with this, there was 80 people for each session, and now we're down to 5 people per session.
Yeah.
But we've gone through part of that is just that the game is like 12 years old now. Part of it is that the group collapsed a few times because the admins decided they were done with the game and didn't want to keep running the group. And it's hard to, if there's not a smooth transition of power, it's hard to fill the power vacuum and not have the group collapse.
Yeah, you guys sound like some sort of a gang or something. Like, all right, the president's gone. We gotta fight for it. We gotta fight for
Yeah,
new leadership.
pretty much. I mean, the first collapse, on April Fool's Day, they published a post saying, "We're shutting down in 2 weeks." And everybody's like, haha, funny joke. And then they're like, no, wait, we're serious. And we ended up with 2 groups. One guy had been going around who was, I reckon he was pretty responsible for the drama that ended up with the group collapsing in the first place. But he'd been going around telling people, hey, want to join my club? We're the cool kids. Only the people I'm inviting can join us. And the rest of us scraped together a group we called Undesirables. We still go by that name. We're the Undesirables because
No,
we weren't picked by the cool kids.
are you kidding?
I am not kidding. And the cool kids went off and had their group for about, how long was it? It was less than a year, I'm pretty sure. And then they collapsed, and all of the people who still wanted to play came over to join the Undesirables.
Oh shit! Did they say why the cool kids are disbanded?
From what I heard, it's because the guy running it, who went and handpicked people, like he tried to get into power in the original group, and then he formed his own group so that he could be the admin and all that. He was a bit of a jerk, and his whole reason for wanting to run the group wasn't so that people could have fun, it was so that he could feel powerful.
What was it that what is that line? Give a person a little bit of power to see how you'll see how much they will change.
Yeah, absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
Hmm?
But yeah, so we still get together and have social game nights every fortnight with the few of us who are left, and we're trying to get onto recruiting and stuff so that we can grow again. But it's also a sort of back to my point, it's a very different type of game to what I was playing 10 or 15 years ago. It's a much slower paced game. You still die when you get headshot, but you don't need the super fast reflexes to be effective. And yeah, hilarious things like driving into a tank happen, which I kind of rabbit holed there, but the point I was going to make was that when we had 80 people, we had a rule that if you're dead, you're dead. So the
Oh,
medics will try to save your life, but we only have one life each to try to complete the mission. And I feel like that made us all play very differently to having the rule that we can respawn. But anyway, the back to the topic at hand that social play is inversely related to age. I think, yeah, you lose your gaming groups because people get responsibilities like kids and jobs. You don't have the reflexes to keep up with whatever the new hotness is. And I'm also finding that not just because I have less disposable income these days, but I'm less likely to buy a game at launch because I don't know how long the game's going to stick around. And I'm not going to put as many hours into a game. I want to make sure it'll stick around and it's not going to be a dead game in a month when I get around to playing it.
I think that's the tragedy of it, though. It's the new hotness, the whole idea that, oh yes, this game will we'll promise you we promise you guys this game will last long, and all of a sudden, yeah, it's gone after 2 3 months.
Or 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How long? How? And some of those games that are gone, like it ranges from absolute legendary games to absolute stinkers.
But they're all still works of art that are worth preserving. StopKillingGames.com.
Yeah.
And the gender split is that more than half of the gamers are female, 48% are male.
Huh.
It's the first time that Australia Plays, which is the name of the study, has indicated that there are more, that female players account for half of the video game player population in Australia, which has been a long time coming. But if they're counting smartphones as gaming devices, I remember a study from, about 15 years ago that found that the average gamer was like a 30-year-old woman. And the reason that they came up with that was because it was heavily skewed. Now, I'm not drilling into this because I'm going to say women aren't real gamers or smartphones aren't real gaming devices or whatever. But I just think it's interesting how your demographics can appear one way. Like, you see half the players are female, and you think, okay, so are women playing? What are women playing, and what are men playing? It's another aspect that I would have liked this study to have drilled into. Because the older study I saw that said that the average gamer was a 30-year-old woman, counted smartphone games, and the reason the average gamer was a 30-year-old woman was because the majority of the respondents to the survey played Candy Crush or some similar mobile game. If you look at the demographics, those sorts of mobile games are really popular in women of that age. So it makes the demographics of the study look quite different to what they might be if you're trying to use a study like that to plan your next game, like get a target market for your next game. It could mislead you because if you're making a game and you see, okay, 50% of gamers are female, let's work out what the female gamers want and make the game more like that. You're going to end up with a very different game than
What you
if you
originally
made the
planned.
game. Yeah. So that's not the reason we've got so many microtransactions and in app purchases and all that these days.
Hmm.
That's just capitalism
Yeah.
because they worked out they could make more money that way, so that's what they do.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
But yeah, the demographics of different games is something really interesting to look into. Like across the last 8 years of playing Armor with my group, I think I met 3 different women in the which I must have played with close to 200 different people across that time because we've had people join and leave all across that time, and that tells you Armor is not appealing to female gamers, obviously. So, yeah, I think it would be really interesting to drill into the demographics and find out who's playing what games, not just who is a gamer.
So with this report though, 82% of Australians playing video game, is gaming now Australia's biggest hobby in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say probably. Like, I'd need to see more statistics, but 82% of Australians gaming, that's most of the population. How many Australians watch a footy match every?
Oh, that's a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, I want to know the statistics on that and compare it.
But you reckon that with the rise of esports and with the probability of esports being televised, you reckon that the numbers we might see similar numbers that we see with people watching footy on TV?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I think because the barrier for entry to being a gamer is so much lower than the barrier of entry to being a footy player, it's a hell of a lot easier to become a gamer and take active part in your hobby compared to watching the footy on Friday night and yelling at the TV.
Yeah.
Now, here's my favourite statistic from the study though.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of talk in the last month or so about adults only content in games and whether children should be able to access games and all. And then there's the law in the UK about identifying yourself to be able to view adults only games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, 70% of parents are aware of in-game controls for their children. Of nearly 400 parents representing the households in the study, most felt familiar with parental controls on console. Nearly three-quarters said they were completely or quite familiar. 75% of parents said they have rules for children around gaming. So that tells me that of all these people who were surveyed, their parents know and are controlling their children's access to content in games. They might not be as good at controlling content on the open internet, because that is a much bigger job. But the argument to have ID for viewing adults only content in games and all of that just falls flat when you realize most people are already putting in restrictions on what their children access.
But the interesting question would be, how do these games help do these games help families bond, and where do you think they create the tension?
That's not part of this study, but I think games help people bond through social play. Couch co op is a great way to get people together to play multiplayer. There's other co op games you can play or even competitive games you can play if each of you own a computer, which is most likely these days because everybody has a laptop to do their uni work or school work or whatever on. So in younger families, I think it's more likely people will play on computers together.
Yeah.
But with older families, it's more likely that people play with just one single computer and play couch co-op or play on their phones. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of people don't even own a computer. They do everything on their phone.
Yeah.
And then there's me who has a box of like 10 laptops that I'm preparing for reasons. No, that's the most suspicious way I could have said that. I'm setting them up with a controlled environment so that when I go to scout events, I can hand them out to scouts and have them get onto the. So we have this thing called Jamboree of the Internet,
Mhm.
where scouts all around the world get into chat rooms and talk to. So I'm basically preparing them for that. I'm putting a controlled environment on them, making sure they can get onto the chat room, and then when Jyoti comes up, I'm going to just hand them out to the scouts and let them go wild. But I probably skew the statistics on the number of computers per household because I am a massive outlier. How many people do you know who have a box of 10 laptops?
No, I don't think I have.
And then the majority of people don't. Well, I don't know the majority of people, but a significant number of people don't even own a computer at all.
Oh man.
Which is a bit funny to say that because a smartphone is a computer.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're very locked down and you can't do everything on them. But they are computers, and when you when you use one, you're using a computer that is so many times more powerful than even the computers people had at home 20 or 30 years ago.
It just reminded me of that scene from Iron Sky, where the evil scientist goes like that. Show me what is a computer? And the marine they captured, he showed his like iPhone. It's like that's a computer. He goes 9. This is a computer. And it's like a big box of. It's like a big big lunky thing.
I've still got to watch that. Basically, the Nazis have a moon base where they've stayed hidden for the last 80 years. And the soundtrack is done by Laibach, a Slovenian industrial metal band. I listen to Laibach, but I haven't seen the movie. Anyway, we should move on to our next topic, DDR memory.
Oh, I was gonna ask some more questions, but
Okay, go
okay.
on then, DJ. Go on.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, I was gonna say, like, for example, I was gonna say, so with what you were saying, so what opportunities does this engagement create for game developers in your point of view?
I think that it indicates that the market for games is huge, which we already.
Yeah,
It gives you some valuable insight into the demographics, and I think the biggest takeaway for me though is still that most people know how to work parental controls,
yeah.
and that we don't need laws telling us how to make sure children don't access adult rated games.
But that said, though, with the whole like government intervention in gaming and stuff, should the government, even though they're doing all these like crazy things with the social media ban and surveillance laws, should the government offer more tax incentives or grants to support the local gaming industry, even though they're doing these crazy stunts currently?
Absolutely. The games industry is humongous. And I admit I haven't kept up with the latest news about what incentives and grants are available. But the ones we had back before they were cancelled by the LNP, 2012, we had quite a. I think it was 2012, it was around then. We had quite a decent sized industry in Queensland for games.
Yeah,
It was mostly Queensland and Melbourne. And then the incentives were making money for the government, but then they cancelled them. And when they cancelled those incentives, all the big companies pulled out overnight, which meant we then had a huge brain drain of people who make games either going overseas to work for a developer or moving into another industry. So even though we had plenty of indie developers still around, they were kind of the last generation of developers for a while because they couldn't afford to do the training, and basically the bigger corps could afford to do training and teaching people to make good games. The indies can't. And the way the games industry works, I'm not sure about whether it can be generalized to other industries, but the people work at the big companies for a few years, and then if they've got the wherewithal to make an indie game, will leave and go and make an indie game. So you are growing the indie industry, and even if you have big foreign companies coming in and setting up offices in Brisbane or Melbourne to make games, as people filter through those companies and then leave and found their own indie developer companies, the indie companies grow and become more viable.
yeah, but okay, I agree with you there. But if it's if gaming's so popular, why does Australia still treat the developers like it's a niche industry? Because it feels like a niche industry. People still think of gaming as a niche industry, especially in
Yeah,
Australia.
it's bigger than Hollywood,
Oh yeah, it's bigger than Hollywood,
but
but
I think politicians just have this view that games are for kids and aren't worth investing in. But it's just like movies. They are an art form and they're worth investing in on artistic merit, but also because they make money for the people who invest in them. So you can get a grant through Screen Australia or your state branch of it to make a movie. That some of the state branches also support game developers, but they mostly make their money back on those investments. So it's the sort of thing where helping an industry to grow has genuine benefits for not just the industry, but also for the government.
Yeah, but I agree with you there. That it should benefit the government. That said, though, should we have more Australian-made games in our stores if that's the
I
case?
mean, I don't necessarily think that there should be a you must have 10% of your store be Australian games thing like they have in Canada, but I think there should be more support for Australian developers.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been talking about this for a hugely long time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, on to DDR memory. Dance Dance Revolution memory. See, you thought I was talking about computer memory, didn't you?
Nope.
That's because you read the show notes ahead of time. So, researchers from ETH Zurich and Eastern Switzerland University of Applied Sciences OST have done studies. So, the article covers 2 studies into helping people with cognitive impairment with their memory by playing video games. So, they took 40 people with cognitive impairment and an average age of 73. They trained, it says in the article, for 25 minutes 5 times a week over 12 weeks and improved their cognitive performance and the volume of their brain responsible for memory, which correlates with actual real world improvements of their memory, cognitive performance.
Okay.
So, what's especially exciting is that in Switzerland, there are no authorized drugs to treat dementia. There are some that are basically early stages in other countries, but it's still an area of active research. And drugs obviously have side effects, but it turns out these memory games don't. And they combine the memory games with fitness. So they call them exogames, which use basically a DDR mat for Dance Dance Revolution and a screen and have the participants in the study dance on the mat to help them memorize things like their shopping list, which then expands their brain and helps with their cognitive impairment.
Why might games be more effective than traditional memory exercises, in your opinion?
I don't know, I'm not a neuroscientist, obviously, but I'm wondering if it's a combination of the exercise as well as the memory game. The study doesn't actually say that the memory game is more effective than other memory games, but they found that the participants reported feeling fitter, more lucid, and more self assured. The control group experienced a worsening of their condition. So the exogames were able to, at least temporarily, slow the progression of the dementia. So part of the study was also, as well as doing the exercise and playing the game, they would do breathing exercises. And I'm wondering so we know that exercise is good for your brain in general. It's just good for you in general, really.
Yeah.
We should all be doing more exercise than we probably are. So even when we're old, we won't be able to spend 10 hours training in esports. We should still be going out for walks and stuff. But I'm thinking that the stimulation from the game stimulates the memory centers of your brain, and the exercise and breathing help oxygenated blood reach that part of your brain, and that's what helps the affected areas grow.
Huh. So that said, though, Professor, would you let your grandparents play Fortnite if it kept them sharp?
I mean, it's a question of what wouldn't I let them?
It could range from Minecraft to Call of Duty to hell, even Angry Birds.
Yeah, well, none of those games have an exercise component, which makes me wonder if there's probably no studies in it, but it makes me wonder if you did a study on dementia rates leading up to 2007 when the Wii came out, because the Wii was hugely popular with older people playing Wii Sports. So that's, getting up and moving a bit.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any decline in rates of dementia for the years following the release of the Wii.
By the way, Professor, the Wii came out in America in 2006.
Okay.
But you reckon the gaming for brain health? You reckon it's a genius idea or is it just a gimmick?
I mean, if it makes your brain more powerful, then it's a genius idea.
Yeah, I get that, but then some people will be like, "Ah, it's just a gimmick. It doesn't do it." Like, how would you uh convince the naysayers?
I would just show them the stats.
Yeah.
And I would, if I had naysayers who were saying, you won't fix my grandparents' dementia with gaming, I would try to convince them to give it a go. Because if they notice changes in 12 weeks, then I think a layperson would be able to recognize the improvement themselves. So, yeah, it would be. Sorry, I've lost that train of thought. Yeah, it would be a way to convince people to give it a go because it's a short period, it's low impact, and it's good for you. If it doesn't work, they can just stop. If it does work, they can keep doing it and maybe get another couple of years of having their brain working well.
Yeah, but sometimes when you play a video game, it could improve your brain, but can be super boring. Like, would you still play it every day though?
If it was going to stop me getting dementia, yes. Oh, so they don't have to play it that long.
What's
It's
also going to
not
be
like
oh,
I already do things every day that I know are good for me, even if I don't want to do them. And I'm trying to find if there's any data on dementia prevalence for the past, but the only good sources I can find are projections for the next 30 years or so.
what's interesting with this study coming out would be, imagine big pharma sees this and they go, oh, our dementia drugs are not gonna they our dementia drugs will be rendered useless by this, and you reckon they'll try and suppress brain training games if they cut into the dementia drug profits?
That feeling very conspiratorial.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think they'd be that good at
Evil. They'll be
yeah.
that evil.
I don't think I don't think they could suppress something like this. And I'm not convinced that Big Pharma is that evil. I'm sure there are people there involved who are that evil and who would want to lock it down so that they can keep selling drugs. But I don't buy into the conspiracy that Big Pharma is succeeding in locking down alternative medicine works.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you know what we call alternative medicine that works?
yeah.
Medicine.
Medicine.
And they will find a way to monetize it. They might not be able to make a drug, but they'll find a way to monetize it. They'll make the game and sell the apps that will do the brain training.
Yeah,
They
I
will
sorry.
train professionals so that maybe they work out this needs to be guided by a professional therapist of some kind.
What's also going to be interesting with this sort of with this sort of gaming helping old people into dementia is with AI now coming into the field. Would you ever let AI design a personalized brain training game just for you?
No, LLMs are not good at that. They're good at coming up with text, they're not good at coming up with numbers.
Hmm.
And LLMs have no idea about neuroscience, so I wouldn't trust it.
Okay. Okay. By the way, speaking of going all conspiratorial, I just had an idea. Uh,
I know.
okay, so what if we have a game-based memory training that becomes mandatory for everyone over 50? You reckon that's a good idea or a dystopian nightmare?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the scene in 1984 where okay, so there's a scene at the beginning of the book where everyone is doing their morning exercises, and it's basically just there to demonstrate the level of surveillance Big Brother has. Because they have people watching everyone doing the exercises and in their home. And if you're not doing them properly, they'll tell you, fix your form up, swing your hips, and tell you what you're doing wrong and how to exercise properly. So I don't think it's dystopian, but that's just what it reminds me.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, see that.
But why don't you tell us about the AI movie?
Oh yes, the AI movie. So there's an open AI movie called Critters. It's in collaboration with the production studios Native Foreign, based in Los Angeles, and Vertigo Films in London. It's a full-length animated feature film made largely with AI tools, and This movie, the aim was to produce the movie in roughly 9 months with a budget of under 30 million, much lower than typical for animated features, and is intended as a proof of concept to show what generative AI can do in entertainment in terms of cutting costs, accelerating productions, and showing quality.
Yeah,
So,
right. I think it was the TV brand TCL did this quite recently. They commissioned a series of short films made using AI. I
Mhm.
watched part of one of them. It was an adaptation of Raymond Bradbury's All Summer in a Day called Sunday, and it was abysmal. Like, they completely missed the point of the story.
Yeah.
They the acting, if you could call it that, was terrible. The cinematography was bad because these generative AI things are only good for generating scenes a few seconds long. So I don't believe OpenAI has some secret AI technology that they've hidden away from us so far that is going to make a Hollywood worthy movie, full length movie, out of a like by itself. Because I think we'd know if they'd made that sort of technological leap since a year ago when these short films were made.
Yeah, it's nuts, and the reaction to it has been quite interesting. So there is a skepticism and concern from creative professionals about job displacement and about AI's effect on creative control. There's also questions about copyright, training data, and how much human authorship is involved. And although AI has made large strides, some technical issues still need smoothing out. So, and human oversight is still needed.
Yeah, and I saw a study the other day.
Yeah.
For programming at least, AI slows you down because you might spend less time coding, you spend more time babysitting the AI to get the output you want.
Yeah.
So they say they can make it cheaper. Well, we know AI is extremely expensive, and currently, I don't believe they're making their money back selling access to the AI to general public. So there's that. There's that they haven't made the technological leap required to make a feature-length film, and there's going to be some intern watching over it, babysitting it, probably.
Oh yeah, the editing process will be interesting if AI recommends one version of edit versus a human editor.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have like some intern, so it's probably cheaper because instead of getting a big director in to direct it, you've got some intern typing generate a scene of whatever over and over again until they get a result that they like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you're flushing away all that money in power for the data center, and it makes me wonder whether they're actually going to save money on it, or if this is
Yeah.
just more hype for something that it's just not good at yet, if it ever will be.
What's going to be weird is, can you imagine in movies later down the track if AI becomes perfected? Can you imagine in the next few years you see movies coming up with this movie is made with 50% AI. This movie was made with 70% AI. This movie was made with 100% AI. Can you imagine seeing ratings like that in your nearest movie?
I hope we get that because I don't know what to avoid. Like we've barely got that for games. Technically, to be listed on Steam, I believe you have to say it's AI or not. AI generated stuff. Of course, your game contains AI. That's like all of the NPCs.
Yeah, yeah.
See, this is one of the problems with calling it AI. It's such a generalized term.
Oh yeah, yeah,
People saying AI generally mean LLMs and other generative AI. But then I think it's also the marketing. You get people believing AI is this actually intelligent thing. And then they start using it as a psychiatrist, and it's all downhill from there.
yep, yep. Yeah, that's you're right. The term gets muddled up. You have to ask yourself, like, what does it mean for a movie to be AI if humans are writing the scripts, doing voices, and supervising the animation process? You have to wonder.
So it's basically just the AI doing the art, well, the graphics. I hesitate to say art for that because the script is art,
Yeah,
and Obviously, that's a human.
The planned debut for this is at the Cannes Film Festival in 2026, by the way, and that is going to be interesting if it comes out at the Cannes, because if an AI movie wins at the Cannes Film Festival, is that going to be a win for technology or a loss for human creativity?
Well, I doubt this movie is going to.
Hmm.
I think it's more likely it'll get laughed out.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
I
I
think the
mean,
sort of people who go there are going to be very snobbish about movies.
yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think it would be a loss at this stage. I don't think AI has anywhere near the breadth of an experience. So I would say it would be a loss for AI take over and make these instead of people.
But okay, let me play devil's advocate here, though. I mean, nowadays as a business person, it costs a lot of money to make movies. That no joke, like 30 it like how much money did it make to make a Marvel movie? Like 200 million plus.
Yeah, and the
Would
quality's really not that much better than AI slop, so
I I understand that, but wouldn't you, as a business person, want to find a way to save money to save your studio in a manner of speaking?
that might be the only smart thing I've ever heard you say. Of course, the company wants to save money. That's why so many companies are firing people right now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because, especially in tech, a lot of companies grew hugely during COVID when everyone was at home using tech. And now people are going back to the office, and it's turns out you don't need that many people in tech. It's just the money was freely available to grow the companies rapidly, and now they're trying to find reasons to get rid of people because it's unsustainable. And yeah, if you're a business owner, of course you're looking for ways to save money.
And the downside to but the downside to trying to make it faster and cheaper would be you have to wonder, like, is this a blessing or a creativity killer, having that sort of mentality?
It's a creativity killer to have to watch the budget at every step.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having limited resources can be a creativity booster
Yeah,
because then you get really interesting things happening. Like, particularly I'm going to relate this back to gaming, is all I know. Particularly in the back end of gaming and developing. If you look at engines from 30 years ago, they do some really interesting things because they were limited to such a small footprint. And these days, I dabble a bit with Pico 8, which is a fictional games console, but it puts together a game and you're limited using a certain number of sprites, a certain number of sound effects, and a certain number of lines of code. So people have some really interesting little ideas put together in Pico 8 that might not have seen the light of day otherwise. And some of them get made into full games, full resources. But the constraints led to creativity. When you have access to everything, you can do anything. It can be overwhelming.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we've seen we've seen a lot of we've seen movies in the past, like Apocalypse Now, for example, where there was like we had too much money and too much time, so we went nuts.
Still, Apocalypse Now is still a hugely well regarded movie.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of something more like, okay, Monty Python, Holy Grail.
yeah.
The ending scene where the police turn up. They ran out of money. They couldn't finish the script. So they came up with an idea to have a literal cop out.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why the police turn up and arrest everyone, and it's just credits.
Gee, damn.
And it's one of the most iconic movies ever. But part of that iconicness happened because they were working on such a small budget. A classic Doctor Who, even modern Doctor Who gets a small budget. But classic Doctor Who was made on a shoestring budget, as in shoestrings were all they could afford, and it has some incredibly iconic monsters and ideas in it.
Okay.
And like the special effects are so bad in some of those episodes. One episode has a monster made out of bubble wrap painted.
You should send me that. I want to see. I want to watch it myself after this. So, with the tech companies entering into the film, are we seeing a new Hollywood or tech monopoly 2.0?
Yeah, it's a tech monopoly where tech is taking over everything around us. And these big companies like OpenAI have the money to buy anything they want. So I could really see, yeah, these companies are going to become a new kind of monopoly where they are so tightly integrated that they literally own everything.
Mm.
And you can create a competitor, but they just squish you out of existence because there's no way you can compete with a $1 trillion company.
Oh yeah, yeah. And with the tech monopolies coming in, and with AI movies, is this the future of film or just a Napster moment before the industry starts cracking down? You reckon?
I'm not entirely sure what you're asking there, but I don't think the industry is going to crack down on this. I think we're going to get to the AI is going to get better to a point and it's going to get used to a point.
Hmm.
But I don't think generative AI using the current algorithms is going to completely replace Hollywood.
So you reckon it's just a Napster moment? Oh, actually, no, I'm not Napster moment. You reckon it's just the future of the film, and there's nothing people can stop?
Yeah, I don't think we can stop it. The cat's out of the bag.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I don't see it replacing everyone in the next decade or couple of. I think we need to look at generative AI as a tool rather than a panacea. Because we are coming up against very real limits in how generative AI works. It can only do so much, and to make it do more, we really need to change the algorithms and come up with new ways of making it do things.
Yeah.
But we really need to move it on,
Okay.
or we will be here all week.
Yep. Fair enough.
So we'll have a short break and be back with our shout outs, which we don't have any of this week, so we'll be back with our messed up moment. So, DJ, what is our messed up moment this week?
So you've seen the one? Have you ever heard of Wanted the movie? The
I know the
2000.
name, I've never seen it.
So for the uninitiated, Wanted was a 2008 movie that starred Angelina Jolie about secret assassins and bullet curving. And this movie was based on a limited graphic novel series of the same name, created by Mark Miller, the writer who penned Civil War and Old Man Logan, as well as co-creating The Kingsman, the Secret Service series. The film was based on Miller's comic series, but the filmmakers took some creative liberties and left a lot of the original story out. Such while some of the magic from Miller's comic series were lost along the way, the filmmakers were right to cut certain aspects from the graphic novel. For example, there is a villain named Shithead. I kid you not, that is the actual name, Shithead, who is a creature made entirely out of shit from the evilest people that ever lived.
It's a poo golem,
Uh-huh.
made out of Hitler's poo.
Well, that and plus Vlad the Impaler
Okay, but
and
where do you get this poo from?
I have no
How do you obtain the poo of history's most evil people?
I don't know, maybe a freak of nature happened, like a comet landed on some poop and all of a sudden, oh, it gained life.
I mean, I'm not even questioning how you give life to poo. I'm wondering how you obtain the source material. Because, Hitler's been dead for 80 years. Vlad the Impaler's been dead for hundreds. Genghis Khan has been dead for even longer. So where are you going to find it?
I know. They said there
And how do
there
you
is.
verify the authenticity?
What do you mean? How do you verify the authenticity?
Well, if henchman number 34 gives you a vial of poo and says, this is from Vlad the Impaler, how do you know he didn't just go and get it out of the employee break room?
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. I'm at the I'm at the wanted wiki page here, and the history they put was he is a horrible creature that no one knows how he came to be. Some say he was formed in the sewers. Others say he was the result of a mystical spell that backfired, or perhaps science gone horribly awry. But regardless of how he was created, he's 100% excrement, and he was made from the feces of 666 evilest people who ever lived. There's a little Hitler, a touch of Ed Gein, and a half a pound Jeffrey Dahmer. And that's a lot of evil shit. Shithead works as Mr. Richter's main goon. and
Okay.
funny and interestingly, Shithead is based on DC Comics Clayface, a humanoid monster who with a malleable body made out of mud. But the other messed up part about this was Shithead here is eventually killed after he's covered in bleach and literally flushed down the toilet.
Fair enough.
I mean, can you imagine this adapted on the big screen?
I could imagine that happening.
I could see it comedically go wrong in so many ways.
Yes, the Pooh Golem reminds me of a character from what's it called? Earthworld, ERF World, where the plot it's now cancelled and been scrubbed from the internet because reasons. Like, okay, that sounds both worse than it is and not nearly as bad as it is.
Uh-huh.
I'll leave it to you to look into, but trust me, it's not pretty.
Okay, yeah.
But the creators decided to, just burn the thing to the ground and ditch everything because, well, no, I'm not going to go into that. Anyway, the reason I brought it up is because the plot is basically a tabletop wargamer
Hmm.
gets sucked into a fictional world that it's an isekai.
Yeah, that doesn't sound that bad.
Yeah, but part of the isekai is that the world that he's sucked into is at war. Surprise, surprise. The enemies are bearing down on the capital city of the side that he's enlisted to fight for, and he's a strategist who has to figure out how to defeat hugely more powerful enemies. So he sends the mages to the sewers to go and create poo golems and create an army of poo so that when they get attacked by the enemy, they can just send out the poo golems to hold the line.
See, that sounds disturbing as a reader.
It's a weird story.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, on to our wacky movie. On the 10th of September 1958, we have the premiere of The Blob in the United States. Directed by Irvin S. Yeworth Jr., starring Steve McQueen, Anita Cosant, and Earl Rowe. A mysterious creature from another planet resembling a giant blob of jelly lands on Earth. The people of a nearby small town refuse to listen to some teenagers who have witnessed the blob's destructive power. In the meantime, the blob just keeps on getting bigger. You were saying the other night, DJ, that you saw the remake of this, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the remake
And
was
it's bad?
it's crazy. It has Kevin Dillon and a couple of other as the main character as the main guy. And man, that one is crazier and bloodier as well.
Is the remake a John Carpenter movie?
No, it's a Chuck Russell.
Okay. Anyway, this original version of The Blob was the first production by Jack Harris, a film distributor from Philadelphia, and was inspired by the discovery of star jelly in Pennsylvania in 1950. Star jelly is a mysterious substance that resembles jelly that is believed to have fallen from the sky during a meteor shower. And there's
Sounds
a
like
bunch of explanations for what it could be, but there have been reports of it dating back to the 14th century. The original title of the film was The Molten Meteor, until screenwriter Kay Lineker referred to it as The Blob. Another story says that it was named The Mass before they changed the name to The Glob, and then realized that The Glob had been used as a title for a children's book. So they changed it to The Blob. Steve McQueen received $3,000 for his starring role. He turned down an upfront fee in return for a 10% share of profits, thinking the film would never make money. The movie was a hit, grossing $4 million.
oh
And I'm not sure
damn.
about the wording there. He turned down an offer for an upfront fee in return for a 10% share of profits. That's worded terribly.
Yep, yep.
It should be he turned down the 10% share of profits for the upfront fee. Who writes this? Seriously. The theme song was performed by a studio group who adopted the name The Five Blobs.
That has got to be the worst name I ever heard.
Yep. Steve McQueen had a poster of the film in his bedroom wall at the time of his death, and during filming constantly smoked cigarettes. even though his character never does. At 49 minutes, smoke can be seen coming from behind him because he's hiding a cigarette behind his back. The original blob, made from red dye and silicon, has never dried out and is kept in the original bucket in which it was shipped to the production company from Union Carbide. Union Carbide being a industrial chemicals company. Makes me wonder what else they put in there.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know the dark, dark secrets of it?
Knowing Union Carbide, probably cancer.
Uh-huh.
There was, for at least a while, I don't see a date here, Blobfest, an annual celebration each summer, provided tours of a number of shooting locations for the film, displays of the blob and miniatures used in shooting, and a reenactment of the scene in which theatregoers rushed to exit the Colonial Theatre, as well as showings of the film. Steve McQueen played a teenage high schooler, but he was 28 years old.
And Blobfest is still going this day.
Wow. That's all we have for you this week. Look after yourself, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.
Check us out on social media and all the other audio platforms. Stay happy, stay nerdy. See you guys.